Our next speaker is Ernest J. Neptune, and from the Passamaquoddy tribe. He's a Passamaquoddy tribal member at the Indian Township Passamaquoddy Reservation in Princeton, Maine. He currently is the forest supervisor for the Passamaquoddy Forestry Department and is responsible for managing approximately 109,000 acres of forest land scattered across the state of Maine. The Passamaquoddy Forestry Department consists of one administrative forester, two foresters, 4 forest technicians, 1 tribal historic preservation officer, and 1 wildlife biologist. Working together, the department collaborates with the Bureau of Indian Affairs, developing timber sales for 13 tribal logging contractors and many other tribal seasonal contractors. And although we've got 3 people from Maine today, I'm under the understanding that Ernie takes the award for coming the farthest.
Thank you. This is our first trip out to the ITC symposium. I've been, again, as introduced, filling this position for the last 3 years, and it's been a very good experience for us. I brought my forester, Ernest Carl, who sits right there. Raise your hand, Ernest. He helps, he's the Timber Sales forester that actually helps with the day-to-day operations out there. I just wanted to greet everybody. Thank you. The Passamaquoddy tribe, in my language, it's Passamaquoddy, which is pronounced, that's the way it's pronounced in my language, and it means people who spear pollock. We are one tribe of the 4 recognized tribes in the state of Maine, which means the Wabanaki, which means people of the dawn. And just to give you I didn't put it in the PowerPoint, but just to make some notes, as some of the great presentations that I was hearing, I was just kind of jotting things down, and looks like scribbles everywhere, but just to give you a brief description of my tribe. My tribe is in Washington County, Maine. It's comprised of 2 reservations. One at Indian Township at Indian Township, where it's more inland. The other one in Pleasant Point, which is along the coast, the east coast. Each reservation has its own government. So we have 2 chiefs, 2 vice chiefs, and 6 council members, 12 council members altogether. So when they do meet periodically, they form what they call the Passamaquoddy Joint Tribal Council. That's the ultimate governing body of the tribe, and that's where my forestry department is governed at that level. And basically, our department was the true catalyst of considering the carbon credit project. We wanted to make sure that because this project is a forest management project, we wanted to make sure that it went hand in hand with our forest management plan. So as we done our due diligence, it certainly fit very, very well with us. And my presentation is just going to give you a perspective of some of the things that we've encountered, the partner that we've chosen, and why. Excuse me, I'm catching something. I don't know what it is, but forgive me for my sniffling and sneezing and coughing a little bit here and there. So let's go press. I'm assuming yes. Again, located in Maine. The Joint Tribal Council of the Passamaquoddy tribe has roughly 117,000 acres of trust land spanning from eastern to western parts of the state. 108,667 acres of forest lands are under active management by the tribe pursuant to BIA approved forest management plan. On September 11th, 2014, the tribe approved the development of an improved forest management project on approximately 98,000 acres to facilitate the marketing of carbon offsets through the California Cap and Trade program. As of today, we are the only project in the eastern United States to have completed BIA review of our project and are working towards an official listing of the project within the month. What is the bottom line for forest owners? You know, again, as the bullets show, you are given an opportunity to produce carbon offsets from your forest, generating a new income stream. The gentleman before me mentioned a couple of reasons why the carbon project seemed attractive. We also kind of fit in that scenario as well. We have 70% of unemployment on our reservations. We're a non-gaming tribe, so we have to make do with the stuff that we've got, and there's nothing more critical than our natural resources, and to maximize those in a way that it's sustainable. So when you must maintain your forest or above its initial stock. You must commit to sustainable management practices. You must limit clear cuts to more than 40 acres. You must maintain some standing deadwood. You must maintain the project through accounting, inventory, and verifications for 100 years. We've heard this many times. And you must limit your management to indigenous species only. So looking at those factors and looking how we manage our forests, they fit very, very well with our objectives on the local level. So we quickly seen that, you know, the opportunity was there, and it was really up to us to say, hey, look, let's do our own internal due diligence. Let's talk to someone or an organization that's gone through the project and the program, and we were fortunate enough to talk to a neighbor of ours and brought him in and basically drilled him with a slew of questions, and a lot of his answers we felt were very good for us. So a little help with our neighbor and getting us into the program. It kind of made us feel much better. You know, and back to the 100-year thing, and that's one of the hardest selling points that I've seen working and trying to promote this forward with the leadership, is the 100-year commitment. A lot of the tribes saying, well, geez, that's a long time. We don't want to enroll our natural resources because we have such a great connections to it, and for that length of time. Well, we've encountered some other worse scenarios by putting lands into easements for a lifetime. So we found that this was 100 years wasn't that long, and one of the things I wanted to emphasize with some of the people I've spoken with is that it's a fluid 100 years versus a rigid 100 years, meaning that, you know, there is an exit strategy if your tribe wishes to get out of the program. So that kind of lessened the blow with some of the hardcore groups that came to the council meetings and really made it difficult for us to make that decision to move forward. Oops, keep forgetting that. Does the carbon marketplace make sense? The answer will be different in every community. Our community is no exception to the rule. It took us about 6 to 12 months of our own internal due diligence before we was willing to basically decide, I should say. But again, our neighbor really helped us identify a developer pretty quick. We brought the developer to our reservation to do some presentations, and done a very, very good job describing the program. A lot of people walked away, you know, a little confused. Some did a pretty good job understanding it. So we invited him 2 other occasions. So altogether, it was 3 visits to our reservations to do that outreach and the education component, which is extremely vital. Generating carbon credits from improved forest management rewards, existing and long-standing sustainable forest practices. That's what we're all about. You know, we try to manage our forest resources very, very well. We manage 13 hand crews, tribal logging crews on our lands. We have many, many factors that we have to consider in developing a timber sale. And they're not, and sometimes it's not too easy. You got a cultural aspect, you have the recreational aspect, commercial, and so on. So it's not an easy job sometimes, but we tend to do pretty good to move through those. Requires a landowner to step up protection of natural resources. And 100 years is long, but trust land will always remain in tribal ownership. We will never sell our lands whatsoever. It's non-negotiable. Overarching issues, community education is key. Transparency in process, buy-in from community members, consideration of long-term stewardship and protection of natural resources is paramount. Anticipate future growth, and that was one of the things that was a little tricky for us, but as we just took parts of our lands and kind of looked and analyzed it and said, look, do we see or can we foresee any development in these areas? If so, what are they and how much should we consider taking out? Did I change that? I didn't change that, did I? Sorry, remind me if you have to. So what we done was we looked at some of the significant areas, camps, housing developments, and so on, and we carved those areas out of our land base, saying we are not going to enroll these areas into the program because we feel that we're going to develop, a housing complex or camps along the lakes. We have a lot of lakes and ponds on our reservation, in our trust land. So it was good that we was able to work with the developer in carving those areas out. We felt very confident and comfortable with those areas that we were enrolling into the program. So that's very critical. And again, you get the 100-year commitment that seems to pop up everywhere. Infrastructure to implementing improved forest management practices. Greenhouse gas reductions resulting from improved forestry management practices must be permanent. Again, that permanent is 100 years. Existing forestry management infrastructure should be in place. Proficient forestry staff and communication with tribal policymakers is critical in success. That's a given. That's something that we normally do. And the last one is training opportunities for the next generation will help the longevity of the project. We're not going to see 100 years. Tribal policy making considerations. Transparency and deliberate policy decisions ensure community participation, dialogue, and informed decision making. Feasibility studies. Does economic return make sense? Limited waiver of sovereign immunity. You've heard that a couple of times. It was an issue that we had to ponder on whether or not this was safe for us to do. So our attorney that we've selected to represent us put it in a very, very good way that that was basically acceptable to our leadership. Consideration of tribal liability and general representation is a necessity. Must navigate legal concerns of the BIA, negotiate development agreements, consider all potential liability. The BIA seemed to be very, very cooperative with us. We did not have to go through a Section 81 review with our project. We had a quick turnaround. It wasn't very long before they acknowledged that we didn't need a Section 81 review with our project. And again, our attorney has really helped us through that process. Investing for the future, financial management, cost and profit and costs. There is going to be costs, obviously, as you've been hearing all along. Those costs could be very substantial, but if you get the right developer, the developer that is willing to put up some of the upfront costs, like basically our developer has done, it makes that much more easier for us to move forward. Our developer was Finite Carbon, and we've got a couple of representatives here today. Sean Carney, which is right there, the hand up, and we got Dylan Jenkins in the back. Great people, very transparent, worked with us very, very well. The ball seemed to be always in our court, and they just basically worked with us. Very rare that does that happen with some of the projects, at least at this size, that I've seen. So, great jobs to that company. That last one I'm not quite too familiar with, but I'll say it anyways. Protecting against invalidation of issue offsets. That was more like a legal insert. I forgot to take it out, but it's there. The revenue that we looked at for a 98,000 acre project was pretty substantial. It was enough to get the tribe to say, hey, look, this is where you have to have a strong tribal government that's going to rule and stay with those policies and rulings, because when money comes in, a large sum of money coming in, the first thing people want to do is have that distributed amongst the people. And they had a pretty good argument in terms of our areas with a very high unemployment rate. But we feel that monies that come in through projects like this should go to program subsidies to the community members. So what we done was we convinced the JTC to kind of give a percent breakdown of the money before it arrives, not when it arrives. Big difference. So each community would be treated equally with a distribution of the funds, and again, it would be to subsidize some of the community programs that are being that are offered. Selecting a project developer. The Passamaquoddy tribe was working with Finite Carbon, as I mentioned. Great people from the start. They always had my confidence and my support. I've been talking to other tribes to consider if a carbon credit would work for them. And if so, look into it. Do your own due diligence. See if it works very well with your forest management plan and so on. So some of the factors considered by the tribe was client service, multiple rounds of community education presentations, meetings with tribal officials. Patience is a must. And they've given us all the patience in the world, which was really, really good. Not pushy one bit. When you get pushy people, you tend to find out there's something not quite right here. But in this case, it was very, very well, very good. Reputation and experience. Knowledgeable forestry staff. Have they worked with neighbors or other similarly situated tribes? Expertise. Carbon offset projects can be complex from a regulatory, forestry, financial perspective, and being able to rely on that expertise is invaluable. Flexibility in contractual relationship. They are willing to accommodate tribal needs such as training for tribal members and desire for self-sufficiency in the carbon forestry marketplace. Ensuring proper legal representation. That's very critical. It was very critical for us. They've really worked with Finite Carbon practically daily to get the terms that we felt comfortable with, and fortunately the company was able to accommodate our wantings out of the project and the contract. Again, that was pretty beneficial for us. Legal representation is critical in negotiating with a project developer, breaking down complicated legal and regulatory issues for tribal leaders and community members, and navigating the federal and state of California regulatory process. The tribe is working with Aiken Gump. We were fortunate enough to have a tribal member actually working for the firm out of Washington, D.C., so that was a really big plus. I mean, again, it's that native to native confidence that we got very, very quickly. Seeing a tribal member, we're not very big, we're 3,500 tribal members, so we see a tribal member working for a firm, boy, that really bridged that gap pretty quickly. Team of Native American lawyers who focus on tribal representation, background in carbon offset projects in the renewable energy sector, flexible engagement to accommodate tribal resources and capacity. And that's pretty much about it. There's some names for the team that we developed, and so it is a lengthy process. It took us many months to do our due diligence. Now we're at a point of actually getting our entity application in to be registered, and we hope to hear something within the next month or so, and get running and reaping the benefits, I guess. Thank you.